In the brutal tapestry of the American Civil War, few places are as synonymous with slaughter as the stone wall at Marye Heights during the Battle of Fredericksburg. It was a killing field where thousands of Union soldiers were sent in futile waves against an unbreakable Confederate position. But on that frozen field of death, a single Confederate soldier performed an act of such unexpected compassion that he became a legend on both sides. This is the incredible true story of Sergeant Richard Kirkland, the man who would forever be known as the Angel of Marye's Heights. Our story begins in December 1862. The Civil War was in its second year, and the early romantic ideas of a quick conflict had vanished, replaced by the grim reality of staggering casualties. The Union Army, under the new command of General Ambrose Burnside, launched an offensive to capture the Confederate capital of Richmond. To do so, they had to cross the Rappahannock River and seize the town of Fredericksburg. The Confederate Army, commanded by the legendary General Robert E. Lee, anticipated the move. Lee's forces dug in on a series of hills behind the town, known as the Heights. The core of this defense was a sunken road at the base of a hill called Marye Heights, flanked by a sturdy 4-foot-high stone wall. It was a ready-made fortress. Behind that wall, thousands of Confederate soldiers waited, 4 ranks deep, ready to unleash a devastating wall of fire. On December 13th, General Burnside made a disastrous decision. He ordered a series of direct frontal assaults against Marye Heights. It was a suicide mission. To even reach the stone wall, Union soldiers had to cross over 400 yards of open, upward-sloping ground with virtually no cover. They were marching directly into the teeth of a perfectly protected and heavily concentrated Confederate defense. The result was a massacre. Wave after wave of brave Union soldiers, their blue uniforms stark targets against the wintry fields, charged forward. And wave after wave was cut down by a relentless sheet of flame and lead from behind the stone wall. Courage was no match for an impossible situation. One Confederate general remarked to Lee, "It is well that war is so terrible, otherwise we should grow too fond of it." By the end of the day, thousands of Union soldiers lay dead or wounded on the field. As dusk fell, the shooting subsided, but the suffering was just beginning. The temperature dropped below freezing. The cries of the thousands of wounded and dying Union soldiers filled the cold night air. They were cries for water, for help, for their mothers. For the Confederate soldiers behind the stone wall, the sounds were a torment. These were the men they had been shooting all day, but their agonized moaning wasn't the sound of an enemy. It was the sound of human suffering, and it was unbearable. Among the Confederates was 19-year-old Sergeant from South Carolina, Richard Kirkland. Like his comrades, he had spent the day firing his rifle into the advancing Union waves. But as he lay in the freezing darkness, listening to the chorus of agony, his conscience ached. He couldn't stand the sound of so many men dying of thirst just a few yards away. The next morning, the suffering continued. The wounded were still there, their cries weaker but no less heartbreaking. Snipers on both sides meant any rescue attempt was a death sentence. The men were trapped, destined to die slowly from their wounds, exposure, or thirst. Richard Kirkland could bear it no longer. He went to his commanding officer, Brigadier General Joseph Kershaw, and asked for permission to go over a wall and give water to the wounded enemy. Kershaw initially refused. He told Kirkland it was certain death. "Don't you know that you would be a target? They would kill you as soon as you stepped over the wall." Kirkland said he knew, but he was willing to take the risk. He couldn't stand it any longer. Kershaw, moved by the young sergeant's sincerity, suggested he wait until nightfall. But Kirkland insisted the men couldn't wait that long. They would be dead by nightfall. He asked again, "Let me go." Finally, General Kershaw relented. He told Kirkland he could go, but couldn't officially sanction it. "I have no authority to order you to do such a thing, but I will not order you not to. You may go." Then he asked if Kirkland planned to take a white handkerchief as a flag of truce. Kirkland's reply was simple and courageous. "No, sir. They might think I am trying to surrender. I will go as I am." Kirkland gathered as many canteens as he could carry, filled them with water, slung them over his shoulders, and climbed over the stone wall, exposing himself to the enemy. For a moment, there was a stunned silence. Confederate soldiers held their breath, expecting to see their brave sergeant cut down. Across the field, Union soldiers saw the lone Confederate figure walking towards them, not with a rifle, but laden with canteens. They raised their rifles, fingers on the triggers, assuming it was a trick. Kirkland ignored the rifles aimed at him and walked calmly to the nearest wounded Union soldier. He knelt, gently lifted the man's head, and gave him a long drink of water. He then moved to the next man and the next. For a few tense moments, the Union soldiers watched, confused. But then they understood. This lone Confederate soldier was not there to fight. He was there on a mission of mercy. The rifles were lowered. No one fired. Instead, a cheer went up from both sides of the battlefield. Union and Confederate soldiers alike began to shout their approval for this incredible act of bravery and compassion. For the next hour and a half, Richard Kirkland was an angel of mercy on that field of death. He moved from soldier to soldier, giving them water, placing a folded coat under one man's head, and offering words of comfort. He made no distinction between a man in a blue uniform or a gray one. He saw only a suffering human being. He would walk back to refill his canteens, his safety now guaranteed by the unspoken admiration of his enemies. Inspired by Kirkland's example, other soldiers on both sides began to emerge, and an informal truce took hold, allowing for the recovery of more of the wounded. But it was Kirkland's initial solitary act of courage that had broken the spell of hatred. His mission of mercy didn't win the battle or change the course of the war. But it was a powerful reminder of a shared humanity that no conflict could completely extinguish. Tragically, Richard Kirkland would not survive the war. Less than a year later, in September 1863, at the Battle of Chickamauga, Sergeant Kirkland was killed in action. He was just 20 years old, but the memory of his actions at Fredericksburg lived on. Today, a monument stands on the Fredericksburg battlefield. It doesn't depict a general on horseback or a soldier in heroic combat, but a humble sergeant kneeling to give a drink of water to his fallen enemy. The monument to the Angel of Marye Heights is a lasting testament to the idea that even in the most brutal of circumstances, a single individual, armed with nothing more than courage and a canteen of water, can demonstrate the enduring power of the human spirit. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as moving as we did, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories from history.